I do not have that one. Oh, please stop. Are you kidding me now? No volume. There we go. Good morning, Daniel.
Morning.
There we go. Thank you.
Apparently, my YouTube video is not going to have any audio for like the first couple minutes.
Well, that helps because I don't understand time zones. So we're all a little sleepy this morning.
That's all right. I'm going to take a break here, and then we'll come right back. You can introduce your stuff then.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Well, this is the Bailey Report, only on the Cerberus Radio Network, and we will be right back after this.
Body's the temple, that's why we're taught. Well, I've traded this for like an old honky tonk. Greasy cheeseburgers.
Congressman Paul, are these two men in the middle insufficiently conservative for you?
Well, I think that the problem is nobody's to define what being conservative means.
Go ahead.
report that said all the so-called savings they thought they were getting, they're not actually getting.
No.
All they do is move when the meter spins the most. Either it spins more in the morning or spins more in the evening, but it's still spinning. It just, I don't know. With the 24/7 news cycle and everything, I just don't see how it's any beneficial, because people work around the clock now. It's not like we only work during daylight hours.
Yeah, exactly. Everything. It's kind of like education and kind of like a lot of other systems that we're based on. It's 19th or 20th century thinking that we're trying to operate our modern day around, and it just doesn't seem to be functional.
No, it's not. So you have a new product you're experimenting with. Would you like to explain that to the audience here? And then I'm sure I'll have a few questions for you.
And I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about it. Good buddy of mine and the co-owner of my company. We have a patent pending product. We have named it, we call it the Weapon Positioning System, WPS. And like I said, it's a patent pending thing. What it does is it will take some form of either Bluetooth or GPS technology, and if you look at the back of your firearm, that gap area between in the grip right next to your mag well, what we're looking at is we're trying to design something. We're actually going to try and physically design something that you could put in that grip that only you can operate. So if your firearm is ever stolen, you actually have the ability to find it and recover it. And that is exactly what we have right now. We have that theory. We're launching a campaign on one of our the fund generating sites, like a Kickstarter. Right now we're on Indiegogo, because that's the only one that would let a firearm. Kickstarter ironically kicked us off, but because evil weapons. So we're on one of those, even though what we were doing, if they actually read it, would be, I thought they would approve it. But what we're doing is we're just trying, we have the patent, and we're trying to put this thing, we have the 1-year patent phase to kind of experiment around to see, to bring proof of concept and see how it works in the field. And then once we have that year, once we have the product that we feel will work, then we can apply for the permanent patent on it.
Okay. So how would the app work on your phone to find the device?
Right now, what we have in theory is is to borrow ideas from other app trackers. What we are trying to do is take the app, and we've actually, my business partner and I have gone back and forth on this. We've decided that the way we're going to initially try it out when we test it in the field is we are not going to have it tracked we're not going to have the weapon described within the app. We're going to have it item 1 or item 2. So that way, that's another level of at least anonymity, because obviously, if it's a weapon positioning app, people will know that that's a firearm of some sort within it. But just like with everything else I've questioned along the way, my buddy, I mean, I'm not going to try and credential him, but he's a Marine, so he's a firearm guy, and he loves guns, and so this is not a thing we're trying to design to make it easier for people to be for the government to track firearms. So we're trying at every step of the way to make it at least as autonomous and private as possible within the actual idea that we're trying to set out. So I don't know if that answers any of your questions. It probably doesn't. What we're trying to do is, the first thing is we're gonna try and make the app, the names within it anonymous. So that way, if you have a pistol, it'll just say item 1, and if you put in an AR-15, it'll say item 2. So that way, even though they know there are weapons there, they are not like the serial number of the weapon in there.
Okay, so in theory, is this going to give you an actual GPS coordinate, or is it going to be like a proximity thing with your phone?
In theory, the actual GPS system lays dormant until you activate it. Let's say you have a lot of people like to keep a firearm in their truck, especially for people who can't work with a gun on them, especially nowadays, wherever. Let's say your car gets broken into and stolen. You take your phone out and you activate the GPS tracker within the weapon. That is when it goes live. Once it goes live, you will get a coordinate on the weapon. And then you will have the option. It will then say, would you like to share this coordinate with police? That's when anybody else, in theory, the way we're trying to lay it out, would know that you have it. Use that, and you could then share that coordinate with law enforcement. It will be a one-time share, and once, either if the device is found or not found, that we're going to try and put in something like a 24-hour, kind of like when you get a Google password, it expires, or like a two-step verification, where you get something that's available for 20. It's only good for one time. We're going to try and do something where, once again, to keep it helping law enforcement out and helping yourself out by getting your stuff back, but also not saying, hey, everybody, this is where it is right now at all times, because that's the one thing I asked him when we did that. So I was like, that's like a full-time tracker, right? And he goes, yeah, I understand that. And believe me, I don't want that to happen either. But there has to be a way that we can, because the big stat for me, the problem we're trying to solve is that 86% of the time when a firearm is stolen, it doesn't get found. And the second thing is, every time there's a mass shooting or an incident, one of the first things we in the gun community say is, well, he didn't get that gun legally, as they try to do impose more legal means upon you and me, Daniel, and other people in our community. They say, well, universal background checks and this and that and this and that. And we always say it doesn't work because they got them illegally. Our hope with this device is to eliminate that as well. If we can find a way to recover or cut that percentage down, it was a study from the Department of Justice that unfortunately Obama put into place after Sandy Hook. One of the things was between 2005 and 2012, 1.2 million guns were stolen. And if we can find a way to get to cut that in half, to recover those, so those guns don't get sold out of the back of a car or get used on kids in the south side of Chicago. And I know, I'm sorry, because that's invoking emotions, and I just want to stay with straight facts and questions. But really, the problem we're trying to solve is the issue is, if somebody gets your gun, if your gun gets stolen, right now, there's no way to get it back. You check pawn shops, and that's it.
Right. They just have the serial number, and that's if you keep records of the serial numbers. Yes. I guess for pistols, there's some sort of database, but
the database. I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't mean to. The database that people have is, if you've ever filled out a 4473, those things are kept on record for 20 years. They have to, by ATF rules.
Okay, so describe this 4473, because we probably all have filled one of these out by now. And
if you're like me, every time you go, you fill multiple ones out because you don't read the directions correctly. It's the form that you get if you buy a firearm anywhere. It's the first name, last name, and then you answer the 20 dumbest questions in the history of mankind, like, are you buying the firearm? Are you mentally crazy? Have you ever, been adjudicated from a felony? And of course, you just check no through all of it, and then they call. Or if you're in Texas and you have, like in Texas, if you have a CHL, you don't have to do the next check, because they said the state has already checked you, so you don't have to. You don't have to do the call. So that's why a lot of people get a Texas CHL, because you don't have to do the next check. It's a little quicker. I don't know how it operates in like the rest of the country.
We'll see. In PA, we don't have a NICS. They don't use NICS at all. They use a database down at the state police. Really? Now, state police checks NICS, but we call it state police for everything. let's see, it's a state form, but there's about 3 questions on there that if you're not paying attention, it's supposed to be yes. They're all yes or no questions, but you think it's no for everything. If you check no for everything, you automatically fail because there's about 3 questions you're supposed to actually say yes. Like I think it's are you a citizen or something stupid like that. And they'll ask you like 3 times, have you been convicted of this crime or that crime? And it doesn't make any sense to do them. But yeah, that wonderful form that I absolutely hate doing because it's a waste of paper. I have enough forms to fill out as a truck driver. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
So basically your system's going to work like I believe it was called LoJack used to work back when the anti-theft deal, where nobody had access to it until your car was stolen. Then you'd call the cops and give them the car, and they'd go pick up the car then because they had that LoJack system in them. That's your general idea then?
That is the general theory we are working on right now. Like I said, we have a year to build it, bring it, experiment with it for a while to make sure we have the right app, the right Bluetooth GPS combo, to see if, because one thing that we're running into, and I'm not going to hide things, I'm going to be completely honest, is we got to make sure that the app, we have to design it correctly so that way the app doesn't break when it fires. You know what I mean? The if it's ever shot, that the vibration doesn't just knock the thing apart and it doesn't work. So there's a lot of things that we have to experiment with. But yes, that is the general concept we are working on right now.
Sounds like an interesting concept. Now, the only problem that was raised was that, well, if you design this system, the government's going to find a way to hack it or whatever. And obviously there's you can't, I don't know, you can't stop them, I guess, if they get a warrant, but you know, that's the general fear that I'm running into out here.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Go.
Okay. Yes. That is because, damn, believe me, that was the first question I had before I got involved with it. There is the fear of giving the government the pinpoint access to where your firearms are. And that is a fear that we are working on every single day to try with this product to try and minimize. Now, my response to that initial question is, if you've ever filled out a 4473, and if you have a CHL, and if you have a phone, I trust the government. I trust the government enough that if they're really coming after you for something like that, they have that data right now in multiple ways. If they have a file on you, if they're trying to find that stuff, they can do it right now. They can subpoena you for a 4473. They can track your phone, and they know if you, like, I have a CHL, so they already know that I technically I could possess firearms on me when I'm driving or wherever I'm out. So in theory, the way I look at it, in theory, is the government already has that ability. Now, people will look and say, well, you're giving them exact coordinates. This day and age, yeah. I've actually reached out to Mr. Carpenter to look over the device that we're trying to bring to market. And I know he's a super busy guy, so he'll get back to me when he can, to try and look at the areas where he's like, this is just not going to work. But because the questions that are brought up, I love them. I want them to come up because I want this device to work, but I also want to make sure that it's not taking advantage of the community that I love. I love firearms. I'm a huge firearm guy. And the last thing I want to do is be involved with a product that could potentially make it difficult for us to own them.
Of course, you could always remove the device after you put it in there if you're that worried about it.
Yes, it'll have a locking mechanism. It'll have a key that you can take out. So it is removable. Once again, in theory, the way we have it drawn up, it'll have a key that can be removed. So if you don't want to have it on you at all times, then you can take it out, as well as the fact that it won't be actually activated until it won't be powered on until you actually activate it.
Which I imagine helps you with the battery life on the thing.
Yeah, that dirty little secret. That's really that was the first thing. We're like, oh, so that way we don't want people to change out a battery every 4 months.
I'm a ham radio guy. So the minute you go into something transmitting, it's like, well, it's got to have a power source somewhere. And depending on what signal it's putting out, it's going to have a rather big battery. But yeah, like you were saying with the 4473, I have FCC, CDL with hazmat. So I have to go through the what is that? The NHS, NSA. It's been a long night. I've been up all night. The NSA background check, which checks me against even Interpol. I have to go through. I have a fast card, so I'm registered with Canada. I have a CCW. I mean, I got all these different forms, and I'm in probably about 15 different databases. But I run into the same problem when I tell people, well, you should go get your FCC license for ham radio. They're like, oh, no, I don't want to be in a database. You already are. You have a driver's license. You're in a database.
I'm actually between when I used to teach, I had to do background checks for those. I'm a class 1 FFL dealer. So I'm on that database as well. Now that I mentioned
that's a big one.
Yeah. So we were not that active anymore, but when we were selling, I actually remember this story as clear as day. We were selling a firearm. The lady was very interested in the firearm. She sat down, and then I gave her the form. And the second question I think the second or third question is social, and she stood up and just walked away. And her husband's like, she doesn't like filling out forms, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, sir, she has a social security number. So they already know who she is. They actually gave her the card. But I get it. I absolutely 100% get it. And the thing is, if you don't like it, if you don't like this app, if this app totally makes you, or this product makes you completely, if it revolts you, A, I understand. B, I salute you. And C, you don't. It's a free market society. You don't have to buy it. It's not like it's being imposed upon you to have it.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's my thing. I hope it, and the way technology is going, another avenue you could look at is this idea is out there. Somebody's going to come up with it. If you want, you can either have like a group from a think tank or from Washington or from, oh, please, I hope not from like ATF come up with something. Or you can have somebody like who two guys who love guns, who love I'm not going to invoke the Second Amendment, but the natural God-given ability to carry and protect yourself. And if we can design it in a way, like I'm not going to say you can't that it wouldn't be tracked by the government, or if they want to, folks, if they really are going to come after you, then it doesn't matter what you have, unless you're living in a Faraday cage your whole life. It doesn't matter. They're gonna track you.
Well, ICE came out, what was that, just last week, and said they had a new way of tracking illegals now using street cams, bridge cams, toll booths, all these cameras set up all over the place. They're going to track them that way because California, Chicago, and I guess New York City have decided they're not going to comply. Mm-hmm. So ICE just said, well, we'll just track them through our own system, and you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We'll just go pick them up ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, the federal government is so swollen, like an infection, the way it's just the ability, the power we've seceded, and the way we've just allowed technology to be the convenience that it is, but we've absolutely sacrificed the convenience for the individuality or even any kind of really freedom. Yeah, we have it, and I absolutely love it. We don't live in a place that takes too much of advantage of it. But if we only think about a couple years ago, we were talking about metadata and all these other kind of things, and yeah, it died down. But do you think that means it went away?
No, it's still being collected. They didn't build that multi-billion-dollar top secret. Well, I don't think it was top secret. that huge storage bank with terabytes or whatever of data collection in Utah for nothing.
Yeah, if the U.S. government was more creative, it would have been built to look like a middle finger. But
don't give them any ideas now.
oh, I'm sure somebody did it, but for PC reasons, and they were like, "Oh, that just draws too much attention, so let's not do it." Although half the population would be like, "Oh, that's such a pretty design," without even realizing what it is. But
it'd be like the IRS building. You walk right in, taxes are what you paid to live in a civilized society. It's like, no, taxes is what we formed a rebellion against in 76 over.
Yeah, it's,
get it right.
Yeah, most of the public, they don't mind these kind of things. I mean, unfortunately for people who live in California, they pass taxes on bullets and all these other kinds of things. So if you feel this is a way that your Second Amendment right, according to your state constitution, will be infringed, right now we live in a society that says you don't have to purchase it. But if you live in a metro area, if you live in an area or if you have kids and you think this might be something good, so you can keep an eye on it. If you think if your kid wants to take your firearm to school, it'll activate. We're trying to include things where when you put it away in your safe, there will be a barrier that if it broke the barrier without your knowledge, like let's say your kid stole it, your kid took it so they could show it off at school, it would activate then. There's a bunch of different scenarios we feel that it would be very valuable to have. And really, the way I look at it is I want to give more autonomy to the firearm user, so that if your gun is taken by your kid, not for anything bad, but wants to go show it off, you're notified. If your truck is stolen and your gun is in your truck, you're notified.
The truck one might be a little more difficult to set up, but the safe one is just a matter of geofencing the safe in.
Yeah. Well, with the truck, you're just activating the app. As soon as you realize your truck's, you're going into the app and saying, is this firearm missing? Then you hit it and it will ping it and find the app and activate the GPS, and then you'll be able to locate it.
Sounds like an interesting system from here. I don't see any real issue with it as long as the government keeps their nose out of it. But it's like anything else. The government's going to eventually stick their nose in it. It'd be better to have you guys make it than, like you said, an ATF or FBI guy come up with the idea.
Yeah. And yeah, I completely, I 100%, and we knew when this thing was when we were gonna bring it to market, that people were gonna be upset with it in a way, because people would look at it as, oh, well, look at this, you're just giving them another opportunity. And you know what, folks, I do get it, and I respect the heck out of how you feel about that, because it's that mistrust in government that we have here in our union that allows us to at least keep the fight up to try and keep our individuality as long as we possibly can. So if people have questions about it, if you look at our Facebook page on it, we've been answering questions nonstop. We don't run from questions because we don't want to be shady. We don't want to look like we're trying to hide something. And if people ask a question, that's a way to bring up, hey, what about this? Hey, we actually didn't think about that. We're going to put that into our process of developing it. If we can get the firearm community to be involved as much as possible, we can make it the best product we can. And so that's why we wanted to put it out there, A, because we'd like to build some funds to make it, but B, we also want to be as transparent as possible. I know it's a dirty word because politicians have soiled it, but we want to be as open. How about that? We want to be as open as possible with the fellow members of our community, which we enjoy being a part of. We're not trying to be like, hey guys, here it is. Haha, put it in your gun. You're done. We want to say, hey, what about this question? What about that question? Where do you guys see it?
Well, and you're trying to sell it to gun users. You're not trying to sell it to Remington or Winchester or Barrett or, you know what I mean? You're selling it as an add-on to the gun aftermarket, not as, yeah, we'll sell this to the gun makers. I'll put it in, then the ATF will mandate it and we'll get rich off of it. That type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that we're not a big fan of at this time. We'd like to take it to the individual market, because that way that's a way we can ensure at least the freedom of choice to use it. Because I guarantee you, if somebody came up with this idea, they would march straight over to Glock or to Sig and say, "Listen, buy this thing, or else we'll do some other." I don't want to say it online because I don't want to give people ideas, but I'm sure you and I can discuss it later on off privately. The way you were saying it right now, the way something like this can be used for negative purposes. And I'm not naive enough to say that it would not be attempted to be, because that's just stupid thinking. But that's why we're trying to do individuals first. That's why we're trying to take it to the individual market. We want to bring you guys in and say, "Hey, this is what we come up with. What are the pros? What are the cons? Tell us, what should we do when we test it?"
No, it sounds like the first key though is to get the patent for it and then do beta testing on it and go from there. Then
Yeah, we got the patent pending, so we do have it. We have the information, the intellectual property. We have all that. So now we have to build one or two for different models, one for Glock, one for Beretta, one for an AR-15, one for a shotgun. And then we have to test it. We just have to test the heck out of it to make sure that it does what we want it to do and not take any shortcuts.
I imagine the AR is going to be the easiest one for you because there's all sorts of ways you can modify them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look just at the bottom of the grip, there's that access hole that people put tools or whatever, they batteries and stuff in. That actually will be probably the easiest one to do, because it has, like you said, the most options to stick a little device into. But yeah, so we have to test it on all different makes and models, sizes, long, short, and just go from there.
Well, all right, you make sure you message me your links and everything. I'll put them in the comment section below. That way, if anyone's interested, they can look you up. I don't really see a problem with it. I see a convenience out of it. Like I said, as long as the government keeps their grubby fingers off of it, which hopefully they will have learned to do by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they want it, they know where they're at. They're going to come get them anyway. This just helps you.
Yeah, it definitely brings up potential issues. The things I can tell people when they ask me that, or when they tell me that, is we are two individuals from Texas, so we don't trust the government any more than you guys do. So we're doing everything we can. And B, it's not something that you have to put in there. You still have the freedom of choice right now to say no. And if you say no, you're not going to offend us. We're not going to get upset by it, because we respect every person's right to do or not do as they please with their property. And I really do appreciate, Daniel, you giving me the opportunity to come on here and explain my case. So thank you very much.
Hey,
I don't know time zones.
You're fine. You're fine. I probably should have made it more clear, and
Yeah.
I should have reminded you yesterday. That would have helped.
Well, I am a sentient human being who should be able to understand time zones, but I'll get there or not. Either way, it worked out.
Now, in this grand scale of knowledge of the world, time zones are probably the one thing you'll be able to live without. If the world comes to an end, the last thing you're going to care about is what time zone you're in.
That is very true. That is very true. Unless it's happening Eastern, so that way I want to know. Oh, the meteor's going to hit on the East Coast. So what time is that here? Oh no, I'm off by an hour.
It's like I missed New Year's. Oh wait, I'm in the Central Time Zone. I got an hour to get home.
That's so dumb. So dumb. But yeah, we plug away, don't we? Same thing.
We have California legislatures writing laws that if you give somebody a plastic straw in their drink and they didn't ask for it, they want to fine you $1,000 and put you in jail for 6 months. Like California doesn't have an incarceration problem now.
Yeah. You know what? Can they just break away at this point? Let them just be their own little communist paradise like Venezuela.
Can we just send them away with a large gift? I say
Yeah.
we just take all their debt and say, okay, we'll take all your debt. You're gone. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, that is definitely addition by subtraction. I mean, and the sad thing is there's so many good people in California that you run into, and then you're just and you say, why don't you move? And they tell you, well, I've been here my whole life and blah blah blah. But sometimes you gotta just face the music, folks. No matter what you do, they're not gonna let half this new California plan that's been introduced, they'll never let that work. They'll never let any of the other California things work. So sometimes you just have to cede. You have to cede the fact that that state is gone. There's no way it's ever coming back.
It and regrettably the entire Northeast.
Oh, I know. I just came down back from there, and I have a lot of family. And like I said, there's a lot of actually good people up in the Northeast. But the political map, the way it is today, is going to be the political map for the United States until eventually some kind of political upheaval or something, some kind of process where it just breaks down. That's how it's going to look from now on. And people want to live in a fantasy where whatever they feel like the federal government is malleable or no. I think that's cute that you live there, but all you're doing is you're just pushing off a reality of the way the dividing lines are working themselves out.
Yeah, it's going to lead to another war, regrettably, I believe. I don't think it'll be peaceful again, but
it's unfortunate.
I could be wrong. Well, anyway, it was nice having you. I'm at the end of the show, so I got to close this down. And send me those links.
Thank you.
Send me those links so I can put them in the comments so people can look at them later. And this has been the Bailey Report. This is your January 29th, 2018 edition. Hopefully, I'll be doing these every Monday morning at 5 a.m. now due to my new schedule. I don't know if I'll get one done through the week or not. But look forward to seeing you again every Monday at 5. And this is the Bailey Report on the Cerberus Radio Network. Y'all have a good week and keep your heads down.